All right, so today we're diving deep into this transcript called Let Life Be. This is the most powerful mantra for your mind.
Hmm.
I don't know about you, but even just reading the title, I'm already curious.
Yeah.
It feels like one of those ideas that sounds simple on the surface,
Hmm.
but probably has layers of complexity underneath.
It does.
It
Does
does.
have that feel, doesn't it?
Totally.
Like a deceptively simple phrase
Yeah,
that could unlock a whole new way of approaching, well, everything.
I know.
And the way this transcript is written,
Yeah.
it's conversational,
Uh-huh.
almost like listening in on someone's personal reflections.
Yeah.
Really draws you in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not just laying out a theory, it's prompting you to think along with it.
Right.
So what do you say we roll up our sleeves
Okay.
and try to unpack this whole letting life be philosophy together?
You do it.
See if we can figure out what it really means and if it actually holds up in the real world.
I'm in. Okay. And maybe along the way, we could even find some nuggets of wisdom
Yeah.
that we can actually apply to our own
I
lives.
love it.
After all, who wouldn't want a little more peace and ease
Right.
in navigating all the ups and downs?
For sure.
Right.
Okay, so the transcript starts by emphasizing that letting life be is not about becoming passive or giving up.
Uh-huh.
It's more about shifting our relationship with life's flow
Uh,
instead of constantly trying to control everything and force things to go our way.
yeah.
It's about learning to move with the current, so to speak,
Yes.
right?
It's like instead of white-knuckling it through every challenge
Yeah.
and unexpected turn,
Right.
we're trying to find a way to ride the waves,
Mm-hmm.
to become more adaptable and resilient in the face of whatever comes our way.
But wouldn't that require a ton of trust?
Yeah.
Like trusting that even if things don't go according to plan,
Yeah.
there's still some sort of order or intelligence at work,
Mhm.
even if we can't always see it.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And you're right at the heart of what the transcript seems to be getting at.
Uh-huh.
It's about cultivating trust,
Yeah.
not just in some external force,
Right.
but also in ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
in our ability to navigate the unknown
Yeah.
and to learn and grow from every experience.
Which brings me to one of those thought-provoking questions the transcript throws out.
Okay.
Imagine for a moment if instead of reacting, you responded with curiosity.
Hmm.
What might have changed?
Wow.
That really got me thinking.
That's such a powerful reframing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because most of us, when faced with something unexpected or challenging,
Yeah.
our default is to react.
Right.
We get stressed, we get defensive,
Yeah.
we try to regain control.
Yeah.
But what if instead we paused
Yeah.
and approached the situation with curiosity, like,
Mhm.
this is interesting.
Mhm.
What can I learn from this?
It would almost be like turning a problem into an opportunity for exploration and growth.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And I think this source is suggesting
Yeah.
that this shift in perspective,
Uh-huh.
this willingness to lean into curiosity rather than fear,
Yeah.
is a key part of what it means to let life be.
Okay, so that's the mindset shift, but how does this actually play out in the real world?
Right.
Because I can already hear some listeners thinking, this all sounds very zen,
Yeah.
but how do I apply this when I'm dealing with a screaming toddler
Ah.
or a mountain of work deadlines?
Well, the transcript digs into that.
Okay.
It starts by breaking down this big idea of letting life be
Yeah.
into 4 core elements: acceptance,
Okay.
trust,
Mhm.
vulnerability,
Okay.
and embracing imperfection.
Got it.
And it seems to suggest that these elements work together,
Okay.
each one strengthening the others.
All right, let's break those down one by one.
Okay.
So acceptance.
Mhm.
This isn't about resigning yourself to a bad situation, right?
No.
It's more about acknowledging what is without judgment.
Yes. That's a crucial distinction.
Yeah.
It's about seeing things clearly
Uh-huh.
without the overlay of our own desires
Right.
or expectations.
Yeah.
It's saying, okay, this is the reality of the situation.
Right.
Now, how can I work with this?
I think where people get tripped up
Yeah.
is that they confuse acceptance with weakness or passivity.
Right.
But really, it takes a lot of strength
Yeah.
to acknowledge things as they are, especially when it's painful or inconvenient.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's much easier to stay stuck in denial
Right.
or to try to force things to be different than they are.
Uh-huh.
But true acceptance
Yeah.
is about acknowledging the reality of the situation
Mhm.
so that you can then move forward
Right.
from a place of clarity and empowerment.
So it's like that saying,
Yeah.
grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change,
Mm.
the courage to change the things I can,
Yeah.
and the wisdom to know the difference.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Right.
And that wisdom,
Yeah.
that ability to discern what we can and cannot change
Mhm.
is so essential.
Yeah.
It's what allows us to focus our energy
Mhm.
on the areas where we can actually make a difference,
Right.
rather than wasting it on battles we can't win.
Okay. I'm starting to see how acceptance lays the groundwork for the other elements.
Yeah.
But what about trust?
Okay.
How does that fit into this whole letting life be thing?
Well, the transcript emphasizes that trust is a multifaceted thing.
Okay.
It's about trusting in ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
in our ability to handle whatever life throws at us.
Mm-hmm.
It's about trusting in the process of life itself,
Right.
even when it feels chaotic or unpredictable.
Yeah.
And it's about trusting in others,
Mm-hmm.
allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and to build genuine connections.
Which is probably the scariest part for a lot of people, right?
It is.
That vulnerability piece.
Yeah.
We're so conditioned to protect ourselves,
Yeah.
to put up walls,
Right.
to avoid getting hurt.
Yeah.
But the transcript seems to suggest that true connection and intimacy
Yeah.
require us to let those walls down.
And that's where the fourth element, embracing imperfection, comes in.
Okay.
Because when we accept ourselves, flaws and all,
Mm-hmm.
it makes it easier to be vulnerable with others.
Yeah.
It's like saying, hey, I'm not perfect, but I'm showing up as I am,
Mm-hmm.
and I trust that you'll do the same.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like you can't truly connect with someone if you're both trying to present a perfect facade.
Right.
You need that rawness, that authenticity
Yes.
to build a genuine bond.
And that authenticity is what allows trust to flourish.
Yeah.
Because when we feel seen and accepted for who we truly are,
Right.
it becomes easier to trust both ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and the people we're in relationship with.
Yeah.
It's like the foundation for authentic connection.
Yeah. So we've got these four intertwined elements:
Mm.
acceptance,
Yeah.
trust, vulnerability,
Right.
and embracing imperfection.
Right.
But I'm still curious about how this all translates into concrete actions.
Mhm.
Like, how do we actually do this letting life be thing in our daily lives?
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of listeners might be struggling.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's one thing to grasp the concepts intellectually, but quite another to put them into practice.
Right.
And thankfully, the transcript goes beyond just outlining the philosophy.
Okay.
It actually gives us some concrete examples
Good.
and techniques for
Yeah.
integrating these principles into our lives.
Awesome.
Shall we explore those?
Let's do it, because I think that's where the real magic happens, when we take these big ideas
Right.
and start to see how they can actually transform the way we live,
Right.
relate,
Mhm.
and experience the world around us.
Totally.
All right. So we've laid out the groundwork: acceptance, trust, vulnerability, embracing imperfection. It's like the four pillars of this letting life be philosophy.
Right.
But I think where the rubber really meets the road is in our relationships.
Totally.
Because let's face it, that's where a lot of this resistance to letting life be comes up, right?
Yeah.
Trying to control how people perceive us,
Mm-hmm.
trying to manage how relationships unfold,
Right.
all that jazz.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Relationships are like a crucible for all these principles.
Mhm.
And I think the transcript highlights that beautifully.
Okay.
It talks about how in our closest relationships,
Yeah.
this idea of letting go of control,
Mm-hmm.
of accepting people as they are, is so crucial.
Right.
It even gives this really vivid example
Go ahead.
of a couple who've been together for years.
Uh-huh.
They're at a crossroads because one of them wants to make a major life change
Okay.
that the other's really struggling with.
Ooh, that's juicy.
Yeah.
I'm hooked already.
Okay.
What happens?
Well, instead of trying to convince their partner to see things their way
Mm-hmm.
or trying to force a compromise that doesn't feel authentic,
Okay.
they both decide to take a step back
Uh-huh.
and just listen. Like really listen to each other's fears, hopes, and dreams
Okay.
without judgment or the need to fix anything.
Wow. Talk about vulnerability.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of courage to
Right.
just sit with that discomfort and uncertainty.
For sure.
It would be so tempting to jump in with solutions
Oh, yeah.
or try to steer the conversation in a certain direction.
Right.
Yeah.
But the transcripts suggest that it's precisely in that space of not knowing,
Mm-hmm.
of allowing the other person to fully express themselves,
Right.
that the real magic happens.
Oh, that's true.
Because when we feel truly heard and understood,
Yeah.
it creates a sense of safety and connection that allows for genuine growth and transformation to occur.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not about passivity.
Mhm.
It's about active listening
Mhm.
and creating a space for authentic connection.
Right.
But what if the other person isn't willing to do the same?
Hmm. That's a good
Like,
question.
what if you're the only one putting in the effort to be open and vulnerable?
That's a really important
Sure.
question.
Yeah.
And it's something the transcript acknowledges.
Okay.
It doesn't offer any easy answers,
Right.
but it does emphasize that you can only control your own actions and reactions.
Hmm.
You can choose to show up with compassion and understanding,
Yeah.
even if the other person isn't quite there yet.
So it's like modeling the behavior you want to see in the relationship, even
Exactly.
if it feels like you're doing it solo for a while.
Exactly.
Okay.
And sometimes that can be enough to create a shift.
Yeah.
Not always, of course,
Right.
but it's a powerful place to start.
Mm-hmm.
And it also goes back to that idea of trusting the process,
Yeah.
trusting that even if you can't control the outcome,
Right.
you're planting seeds that might bear fruit down the line.
Okay, so we've talked about how this letting life be approach plays out in our closest relationships,
All right.
but the transcript doesn't stop there.
Uh-huh.
It also talks about the impact this philosophy can have on our communities.
Right.
Like, how do we take these principles of acceptance, trust, and vulnerability and apply them on a larger scale?
Well, the transcript uses this really compelling analogy of a community garden.
Okay.
Imagine a bunch of people coming together
Mm-hmm.
to create a shared space where everyone can contribute their unique skills and perspectives.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah.
Because a garden is all about collaboration, right? You need different plants,
Yes.
different types of soil,
Uh-huh.
different levels of sunlight and water
Right.
to create a thriving ecosystem.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the transcript suggests that building a strong community is very similar.
Okay.
It requires us to embrace diversity,
Mm-hmm.
to value different viewpoints and experiences,
Yeah.
and to work together towards a common goal,
Right.
even when we don't always agree on the best way to get there.
But that can be so challenging, right?
It is.
Especially in today's world,
Yeah.
where there's so much polarization and division.
Right.
It's like everyone's digging in their heels
Uh-huh.
and clinging to their own perspective.
It's definitely not easy,
Right.
right? And the transcript acknowledges that.
Yeah.
It doesn't sugarcoat the challenges,
Okay.
but it also points to real-world examples
Mm-hmm.
of communities where people are finding ways to bridge divides
Yeah.
and work together towards common goals.
Okay.
Like, think about those neighborhood initiatives
Mm-hmm.
where people from different backgrounds and socioeconomic statuses come together
Right.
to address issues like food insecurity
Okay.
or
Yeah.
environmental sustainability.
It's like those moments where people realize that their shared humanity
Yeah.
is more important than their differences. And they decide to put aside their egos
Right.
and work together for the greater good.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the transcript suggests that those moments are more common than we might think.
Uh-huh.
It's just that they don't always make the headlines,
Right.
but they're happening all the time,
Yeah.
all over the world.
Okay.
And they're a testament to the power of this letting life be philosophy to create positive change.
I love that. So it's like we're moving from me to we.
Exactly.
From individual control to collective empowerment.
Right.
And that brings us to the biggest we of all, right?
Yes.
The global community.
Mm-hmm.
Because the transcript doesn't shy away from applying this philosophy to world affairs,
Right.
which I have to admit initially struck me as a bit idealistic.
Okay.
Like, are we really going to solve global conflicts
Mm-hmm.
by just, letting things be?
I can see why you'd say that.
Yeah,
It does sound audacious, doesn't it?
it kind of does.
Applying this very personal philosophy
Yeah,
to the complexities of international relations.
right.
But I think what the transcript is getting at
Okay.
is that at the core of so many global conflicts
Mm-hmm.
is this very human need to control,
Uh-huh.
to dominate,
Yeah.
to impose our will on others.
Okay.
And it suggests that if we can start to shift that mindset,
Yeah.
even just a little bit,
Okay.
it could have a ripple effect throughout the world.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Oh, yeah?
Walk me through this.
Okay.
How would this letting life be approach actually play out on a global scale?
Yeah.
Like, are we talking about world leaders suddenly deciding to meditate together
No.
and sing Kumbaya?
Not quite,
Okay,
but maybe not as far off as you might think.
right.
The transcript points to some real-world examples of how this shift in mindset has already started to happen.
Okay.
Like, think about the recent climate accords,
Mm-hmm.
where countries with very different economic and political interests came together
Yeah.
to address a shared global challenge.
Okay.
Or those peace negotiations,
Uh-huh.
where former enemies found a way to lay down their arms
Or
and work towards reconciliation.
So it's not about erasing differences
Right.
or pretending that conflicts don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
It's about finding a way to approach those differences with more compassion,
Yeah.
understanding,
Uh-huh.
and a willingness to compromise.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's about recognizing that we're all interconnected, that our actions have consequences that ripple out far beyond ourselves.
Right.
The transcript even quotes this amazing line from a diplomat
Okay.
who was involved in some really intense peace talks.
Uh-huh.
The moment we stopped trying to win and started trying to understand, everything changed.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
It's like that shift from seeing the other side as an adversary
Mm.
to seeing them as a fellow human being
Right.
with their own valid experiences and perspectives.
And I think that's what this letting life be philosophy ultimately boils down to.
Yeah.
Cultivating a deeper sense of compassion and interconnectedness,
Mm-hmm.
not just with ourselves and our loved ones,
Right.
but with all beings.
Mm-hmm.
It's about recognizing that we're all part of this grand, messy, beautiful tapestry of life,
Yeah.
and that our individual actions can either contribute to harmony or discord.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From personal relationships
Yeah.
to community dynamics to
yeah.
global affairs. This letting life be idea has some pretty far-reaching implications.
It does.
But before we wrap up,
Okay.
I want to bring it back to our listener, to you,
Right.
because you're the one who's going to take this information and decide what to do with it.
Right.
So what resonates with you?
Yeah. What stands out?
What are you going to take away from this depth dive?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to emphasize that this isn't a one-size-fits-all prescription.
Right?
It's more like a toolbox filled with different approaches and techniques that you can experiment with and see what works for you in your own life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what tools are you most drawn to?
Right.
Is it the idea of cultivating more curiosity in your daily interactions?
Mm-hmm.
Is it about practicing acceptance in your relationships?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's about finding ways to contribute to a more compassionate and collaborative community?
Whatever it is,
Yeah.
I encourage you to take a moment to reflect on what you've heard today and see how it resonates with your own experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, this is just the beginning of your exploration.
Right.
The transcript itself is full of thought-provoking questions and insights that you can revisit and delve into further.
Yes.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe this deep dive will spark your own personal journey of letting life be,
I hope so.
a journey of embracing the unknown,
Mhm.
of trusting the process, and of cultivating a deeper sense of connection with yourself,
Yeah.
with others, and with the world around you. It really feels like this whole letting life be thing
Yeah.
is about surrendering to something bigger than ourselves, but not in a way that diminishes our own agency
Right.
or responsibility.
Yeah.
It's more like we're aligning ourselves with the natural flow of things,
Right.
recognizing that we're part of a system that's much vaster
Uh-huh.
and more complex than we can fully comprehend.
Yes. It's like acknowledging that we don't have all the answers.
Right.
That we can't control every outcome. And that there's a certain wisdom in letting go of that need for control.
And in doing so,
Yeah.
we open ourselves up to possibilities
Right.
that we might have never imagined if we were too busy trying to force things to go our way.
Right.
Like maybe that detour that felt so frustrating at the time
Yeah.
actually leads us to a more fulfilling destination.
Right.
Or maybe that relationship that didn't work out the way we expected
Uh-huh.
paves the way for a deeper, more authentic connection down the line.
It's like trusting that even the things that feel like setbacks or failures
Yeah.
are actually opportunities for learning and growth.
Right?
And that even in the midst of chaos and uncertainty,
Mm.
there's a deeper intelligence at work guiding us towards where we need to be.
Okay, so how do we cultivate that trust? Because I think for a lot of us,
Yeah.
it's not something that comes naturally.
Right.
We're so used to relying on our own plans and strategies to trying to figure everything out
Right.
and control every outcome.
That's true. And the transcript doesn't shy away from the fact that this is an ongoing practice,
Oh,
a continual process of letting go
right.
and surrendering to something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
It even talks about the importance of developing a mindfulness practice,
Mm-hmm.
of learning to be fully present in the moment.
Okay.
without judgment or resistance.
Because when we're so caught up in our heads,
Yeah.
worrying about the past or fretting about the future,
Right.
we miss out on the richness and beauty of the present moment, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the transcript emphasizes that the present moment is the only place where life actually happens.
Right.
It's where we experience joy, connection, creativity, love. And when we learn to fully inhabit the present moment,
Yeah.
we naturally become more attuned to that deeper flow of life, that wisdom that's always guiding us.
Okay, I can already feel my shoulders relaxing just thinking about that. But let's be real life isn't always a peaceful meditation retreat. There are going to be times when things feel messy,
Yeah.
chaotic, even downright painful.
Uh-huh.
How does this letting life be philosophy
Yeah.
help us navigate those rough waters?
Well, the transcript uses a really beautiful metaphor for this.
Okay.
It talks about life being like a river with its ebbs and flows,
Yeah.
its rapids and its still waters.
Right.
And it suggests that when we resist the current,
Yeah.
when we try to fight against the natural flow of things, we create unnecessary suffering.
It's like trying to swim upstream, right?
Exactly.
It's exhausting and ultimately futile.
Yes.
But when we learn to swim with the current, we can actually use that energy to propel us forward,
Right.
even through the challenges.
Yes, and the transcript emphasizes that this doesn't mean becoming passive
Okay.
or giving up.
Right.
It's about recognizing that there's certain things we can control and certain things we can't.
Yeah.
And it's about focusing our energy on the things we can influence,
Right.
while also accepting the things that are beyond our control.
So it's about finding that balance between action and acceptance,
Exactly.
between effort and surrender.
Yes.
It's about engaging with life fully, but also recognizing that we're not the sole authors of our story.
And that can be a really liberating realization.
Yeah.
Because it frees us from the burden of trying to control everything.
Right.
From that constant pressure to make things happen a certain way.
It's like we're letting go of the oars
Yeah.
and trusting that the river will carry us where we need to go, even if the journey isn't always smooth sailing.
Right.
But I think what really resonated with me is how this philosophy encourages us to approach life with more curiosity and openness,
Right.
even in the face of challenges.
Yes.
Right.
It's like turning every experience, whether positive or negative, into an opportunity for learning and growth.
Yeah,
And that's a really empowering way to live, don't you think?
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like we're saying yes to life. In all its messy, unpredictable glory, we're saying yes to the unknown, to the adventure, to the possibility of something truly magical unfolding,
Right.
even if we can't see the full picture yet.
And ultimately, I think that's what this letting life be philosophy is all about.
Yeah.
Cultivating a sense of trust and surrender that allows us to live more fully, more authentically, and more joyfully, even amidst the inevitable challenges that life throws our way.
Well, we started with a single transcript and ended up on a journey through relationships, communities, and even the complexities of the world at large.
Right.
And through it all, this idea of letting life be has emerged as a guiding principle, a compass pointing us towards a more peaceful, more fulfilling, and more interconnected way of being in the world.
It's been a truly fascinating exploration,
I agree.
and I hope it sparks some new insights and reflections for you, our listener. Remember, this is just the beginning of your own deep dive into the power of letting life be. Take what resonates with you.
Right.
Experiment with these principles in your own life
Yeah.
and see where the journey takes you.
And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe along the way, you'll discover that the most profound transformations happen. Not when we try to force things to go our way,
Right.
but when we surrender to the wisdom of the unfolding moment.
Beautiful.